Yeah, pleasure is all mine. Northwestern European regional contest has been one of my favorites. When I was competing in the ICPC, I was the region next door. We were competing in Central Europe, and but I had the good experience of attending the NWERC as well several times as analyst when we were trying out stuff for the World Finals as ICPC analysts and uh, so on. So yeah, Northwestern region is close to my heart, and I'm very happy to be here today and to be able to entertain you for a while with some random talks about stuff I found interesting in the area of cryptography. So hopefully you will enjoy the talk and be entertained, and it will take your mind off the contest for a little while. I will try to monitor the YouTube chat, so if you have questions during the talk, feel free to type them, but probably I will get to addressing most of them only close to the end of the talk. So let's see what we have in store today. So I'll try sharing the presentation, and hopefully everything will cooperate. So looks like it works. Perfect. So let's see what we have in store today. This is me. I was already very nicely introduced. If you have any reason to reach me, you can do it by email at miso@algo.sk. And yeah, I've been doing this for quite a while, and it's still fun. So hopefully I will keep on doing this, and you will keep meeting me if you are still the members of this nice competitive programming community. So today I will be talking about several vaguely loosely connected topics that have one thing in common, that they are kind of related to cryptography. And the topic we'll start with is a topic very near and dear to my heart. It's about physical locks. So these are locks you can find on everyday doors. They are called pin tumbler locks. And the mechanism is as follows. So you have the lock. There is a part that is static. That's on the picture on the left. It's shown in green. And there is a part that rotates. That is the yellow part. So you insert the key, and then you rotate the yellow part. And during the rotation, it will lock or unlock the door. What's going on inside the lock is that there are several pins, and the pins are on springs. And each of the pins is cut in one specific location. And in the position when there is no key, the springs are pushing the pins as high as they can go, and the pins are making impossible for the core, for the yellow part, to rotate. And if you insert the correct key, as is shown in the second picture, it depresses each of the pins exactly so that the place where the pin is cut is exactly on the boundary between the yellow and the green part. So now the top part of each pin is inside the core, the bottom part of each pin is outside of the core, and now the core is free to rotate, and you can actually open the lock. If you insert a different key, then the pins will still be misaligned, and they will still be blocking the core from rotating. So this is what is going on inside your ordinary lock. If you are interested in seeing it in more detail, I recommend the YouTube channel Lockpicking Lawyer, who will show you how to open such locks using almost everything. From the point of view of a computer scientist or a mathematician, what's going on here is that each key and each possible lock can be seen as a vector of numbers, as a sequence of numbers that is describing the way the key is cut. This is called the bitting on the key. So you have a sequence 0, 3, 4, 1, 3, 2 is describing the depths of the individual cuts on the location of each pin that the key has to push down. And in this, so this gives you some idea about the space of possible keys. If the keys, so this is physical. So if you have keys that are very close to each other, then one of them will work, and you will just have to use a bit more force. So you need to have some kind of discrete steps. And so on each location, you will have maybe 5, 6, maybe 7 possible depths for the key. And this is then taken to the power of the number of pins inside the log, and this gives you the number of possible keys. And now we're getting to the interesting part. There are many practical uses for what is called master keys. A master key is a key that can open multiple doors. So a common use for this would be that you have a hotel, and inside the hotel you want to have guests, and each guest should be able to only get into their own room. But you also want to have housekeeping people who come into each of the rooms to exchange towels and clean up and so on. And housekeeping could carry a huge bunch of keys, but it's more practical if they have a master key, a key that can open each and every of the doors without allowing the hotel guests to do the same thing. And with pin tumbler locks, there has been for decades a very standard technique how to do these master keys. And the technique is very simple. The thing you do is you just cut each pin, not in one place, but you cut each pin in two separate places. So if we go back to the original picture, now each pin will have not two parts, one on top of the other, but there will be three parts. And one cut will correspond to the ordinary key given to the guest, and the other cut will correspond to the master key. And you make a separate lock for each of the doors. In each of them, you make one set of cuts in original locations for just that one specific key, and you make the second set of cuts in exactly the same locations in each of those locks, and then the second key, the master key, will be able to operate all of them. So much for the theory, how this has been done. And one day, early 2000s, computer scientists interested in locks studied this particular application, and the guy by the name of Matt Blaze came up with quite an easy attack on this physical security. So first of all, probably all of you have already made the observation that if you cut the lock like this, there will not be just those two keys that work. Each and every possible combination of those keys will also be able to open the door. So if you have, let's make it very simple, if you have one key that is cut to the depth of 3 on all locations, and another key that is depth 5 on all locations, and one of them is the master key, the other is the regular key, then any key that has 3 or 5 on each of those possible locations will be able to open the door. You just need to press each of the pins either to the first depth or to the second depth that will allow you to open the door. So if there are P positions, there are not just 2 keys that work for the door, there are 2 to the P keys. This alone would not be such a big problem because it's still only a small subset of the space of all possible keys. But it's actually possible to very easily obtain the master key in, let's call it linear time, so with the linear time complexity, if you already have the other key. So what you can do is you can check into the hotel, you will get your room, you will get your room key, and now what you already know is one possible vector of numbers, one possible sequence of depths that actually works, that opens the door. And now you can take a blank key profile. So this is a key that hasn't been cut yet, and you can use just an ordinary file to file down the key, and you can file down all of the positions to your room key except for one. And for this one position, you will now try, does it open the door if I don't cut it at all? Does it open the door if I cut it a little bit more? You skip the position that works for your particular key, and you try out all of the other positions. And in this way, you will find out one of the numbers for the master key. Then you do the same for the second, third location, and so on. And the final part of this story is that he wrote this up, published it, and then approached also like some standard locksmiths and talk about this. Hey guys, look what I found. There is this very clear and easy vulnerability. An attacker with half an hour of time can actually determine what the master key is and make them in this way. And he got the response, yes, we all know about this, but shut up and don't tell the general public. So that's the nice part of this story. As usual, in the area of security by obscurity is a bad idea. Sooner or later, somebody will find out the parts that should have been obscured, and then your security is no more. So the only right way of doing security is security by design. The security, the thing that makes it secure has to be something actually designed to be that way, and not just keeping something quiet. So this was our first topic. Now let's try something different. With the advent of communications all over the world and so on, many things that have been very easy have now become much more complicated, and things like flipping a coin can be very tricky if one of you is in Europe, the other one is in Australia or whatever other side of the world. If you are in the same room, flipping a coin is trivial. You take a coin, you flip it, and both of you observe the coin. One of you calls heads or tails, and then you look at the coin and see who won. But if you are on the opposite ends of the world, then it's not immediately obvious. How can you flip a coin? Or maybe how can your two smartphones flip a coin in such a way that both of you trust the result? There are many ways of doing this that are not that good. I mean, for example, the way that, okay, so I'll flip the coin and I will tell you the result. So just trust me. Yes, I can even do it on camera. No, I don't have it pre-recorded, and I will not select the recording that is opposite to the one you make as a guess. Or maybe let's both flip a coin. You will flip a coin and generate a 0 or a 1. Then I will flip a coin and generate a 0 or a 1. Then we'll take the XOR and we'll use it as a result. Yeah, okay. But now my friend is saying, hey, why should you throw the coin as the second one? What about you start, and then I will throw the coin to generate the result I want to have. Okay, this will not work. Oh, okay, no. Now, so maybe let's just give up and let's use a trusted third party. There is random.org, so let's use that as the source of our random bits. Okay, this works if we want to flip one coin, but if we want to have an application we are selling and people are using the application to play some games against each other and so on, and maybe it will be too expensive, maybe they will rate limit us too much or something like that. So it would be better if we had a solution that doesn't need a trusted third party. Is there something we can do? Here's a better protocol for flipping a coin. Alice will say that, okay, I have made my guess. I have chosen heads or tails, but I'm not telling you yet. I have written it down. I have sealed it into an envelope, and here it is. Here's the sealed envelope. And now Alice will mail the envelope to Bob. Bob will wait until the envelope arrives. And then he has the flipped envelope, the sealed envelope. He can flip a coin, announce what's the result, and only then they will unseal the envelope and take a look whether Alice was correct or incorrect with her guess. Of course, so this works. This kind of doesn't break anyone's trust, but with physical envelopes, it will be too slow. So here's a way to do the same thing, but with standard tools you have on your computers. So Alice will create a text file with the text, I will choose heads or I will choose tails. She can then produce, for example, an encrypted zip file, email the file to Bob. At this moment, Bob has the encrypted zip file, and he knows that Alice is committed to a choice. So this is why it's got the official name, bit commitment. Alice has committed herself to a bit, but Bob doesn't know which bit it is. He doesn't know whether she chose heads or chose tails. He just knows that the choice has already been made, and he has the sealed envelope, the encrypted zip file. And then Bob can actually flip the coin, so generate a bit. It doesn't even have to be random because Alice could make her choice random, so he doesn't need to do it at random if he doesn't want to. But he generates heads or tails, and then Alice will not just announce what was her choice, but she will also announce the password for the zip file, allowing Bob to commit to verify that her choice was actually the correct one. And of course, so this is an example of the same protocol using standard tools on a computer, but when we are doing this in actual applications, we are doing it using different kind of standard tools that are available in standard cryptographic libraries. So what you are doing in actual applications of this is Alice will take any string of random bits she wants to commit herself to, and she will publish, send to Bob, a secure hash function of those bits. So for example, secure hash algorithm 256 will be the thing that she will publish. And then after Bob has made the choices or random choices or shuffling or whatever they wanted to do, then later Alice can announce the original string. Bob can compute the hash and verify that the hash value is okay. And this is one. So for the cryptographical hash functions, one of the standard requirements is that they have to be resistant to collisions. So we don't know any efficient way to produce collisions for the hash function. There is no reasonably efficient way for Alice to create two different strings with the same hash value, and therefore we can trust that the string published in the last step has to be the same string that already existed in the first step. So this is an example of a very trivial cryptographical protocol. Later on in my talk, we will go back to this idea, and we will show how to use it inside as a tool, as a building block inside a more complicated algorithm. Before we do so, I will talk about a few other topics first. Here's one more thing for you to consider. And this is also, in some sense, cryptography, because the need to make sure that something existed at some point in time, before some point in time, after some point in time, and so on, is something that occurs in very many practical applications. And one of the earliest ways of showing that something already existed is the classic TV trope with ransom money, that there are some people, they will, for example, abduct somebody's dog, and then they will send a mail that is cut out from individual letters from a newspaper, and it will say that we have your dog, send us your money, and here's the picture of the dog, and in the picture there is the dog, and there is today's newspaper to show that this is a picture taken 10 months ago. This is a picture that must have been taken only after this particular issue of the newspaper has existed. So in this way, we can very easily show that this particular picture of the dog could not have existed earlier. It must have been taken when the newspaper was published, or maybe later, but it did not have any way to exist earlier. Now, a challenge for you to think about after the talk is, can you do the same thing with physical photography to show the other inequality? So how would you make a picture that could not have existed later? You need to show that this picture was taken at this point in time, or maybe earlier, but definitely not later. What's a good repeatable technique of doing the opposite inequality? And thinking about problems like this one is what eventually led to, for example, a very popular buzzword nowadays is a blockchain, and blockchain is also a tool that is intended to solve this type of problems, making sure that something happened and was recorded at some particular point in time. Okay, and now we are getting to the last big part of my talk, and the last concept I will talk today in this tech talk is the concept of zero-knowledge proofs. So in this particular topic, what's going on is that you have some specific knowledge. For example, you have solved a Where's Waldo puzzle or a Sudoku puzzle, or you know how to solve an NP-hard problem in polynomial time, or maybe something even bigger than that. You have some knowledge, and you want to convince other people that you actually do have this knowledge, but you have to do it in a specific way, because, for example, if you really have a polynomial algorithm for 3 set, then this is a huge thing, and as soon as you reveal how to do it, what's the algorithm, then everybody else will also be able to do it. So maybe you want to try to prove that, yes, I can actually do this, without revealing that you can do it or how your algorithm works, something like this. So how can something like that even be possible, that you can prove beyond any doubt without actually revealing anything? Let's start with some very simple specific cases when something like that can be done. So there is Waldo, or in English, where is Wally puzzles, as one of the very nice hardware examples of these problems and solutions. So this is a collection of puzzles that have scenes like this one. And in these scenes, the goal is always to find primarily Waldo, who is a character in a red and white striped shirt, but there are also usually others like a dog and so on. And you can spend a lot of time looking for this particular character in many, many different scenes. And now you have already found him, but you don't want your friends to know where he is in the picture. You just want to brag that, yes, I already know where he is. But if you just show them, then everybody else knows as well, and the fun is over. So what can you do? For this particular problem, we have a hardware solution. The hardware solution is take a large newspaper or any other large piece of paper that is bigger than the puzzle, make a small hole into the paper, cover everything, and just show them the actual character. So if you show the actual character, then now you can say, here he is, I was able to find him, and you haven't shown anything else. So this is the general principle, but this is something that could be only done for this specific puzzle and cannot be generalized. So let's see a different example that can actually be generalized. The different example will be color blindness. So some people have different kinds of color blindness. Usually it's among some specific hues of colors because their eyes are not sensitive enough to be able to tell them apart. The most common type of color blindness is red-green. So suppose you have a friend who is colorblind. You have a red ball, you have a green ball. To you, they are different. To them, they look the same. And now you want to convince them that you actually are able to tell the balls apart. What can you do? The idea is very simple, and probably most of you, the first thing you would try would be something along these lines. The key idea is a protocol where one person issues challenges and the other makes some responses. So if you are claiming that you can really tell those balls apart, and you know that this one is the red one and the other one is the green one, what you can do is with your friends is they can always take the balls under the table, shuffle them, bring out one of the balls, and you will say this is red or this is green, and they can keep track of the balls also below the table, and they know that you are consistently giving correct responses. And with each correct response, their confidence that you are actually able to tell those balls apart is growing, because if you are just making random guesses, then your probability of making X random guesses in a row is 2 to the minus X. As soon as you get to 50 attempts and all 50 attempts were correctly answered, then the probability of you doing it random is so negligibly small that being killed by lightning is much more likely than you being so lucky. So this is the key idea also in the general implementation of these zero-knowledge proofs, that there will be a protocol with some challenges and some responses, and the person who is giving the challenges will be then convinced more and more that the person who is successful will be able to do those responses is actually in possession of the knowledge. We are still lacking one more aspect of this. So what we have just described is an interactive proof scheme, but we will have also to be able to argue about it being zero knowledge. We will have to show that there is no transfer of information. And in order to do this, I will introduce one more story. And in this story, I will now talk about a story that we probably all know from the Arabian Nights. It's the story of Ali Baba and 40 thieves. So in this story, Ali Baba is a poor woodcutter, and one day he happens to overhear a group of thieves, and he follows them, and he sees that they are able to enter a secret cave by saying the magic words "Open Sesame," and when they say "Open Sesame," the wall opens and they can pass through solid rock into the protected cave. And now, what really happened in the story is that Alibaba wasn't so stupid that we would just steal gold from them or something like that. Alibaba is smart, and he realizes that stealing gold of the thieves, this is a one-shot thing that doesn't bring any profit in the future, but being able to pass through solid rock by uttering magic words, now this is a skill, and this is a skill that can be monetized. So he now has this new skill. He would like to advertise his new skill, but how to do it? The way the thieves did it is very stupid. If anybody hears the magic words "Open Sesame," then they will be able just to do the same thing he did, learn the secret, and then they'll be able to pass through walls, and suddenly his new skill will not be valuable if everybody can do it. So Alibaba has to come up with a way of showing off that he has the skill, but without revealing how it is done. And what happened is that Alibaba spent some time searching and managed to locate a cave just like the one that is here on the slide on the right side. And in the cave is almost a circle, but there is a rock wall. It's exactly in the middle of the circle. So anybody who inspects the cave will see a cave that consists of two separate branches, branch A and branch B. And now Alibaba has contacted the DNN Evening News. So this is the Desert News Network. And he told them, hey, guys, I can pass through solid rock. Come with me, bring your cameras, and you will be able to show a documentary about it on the evening news. This will be a scoop of the century. Come on, let's go film. So they ventured into this desert. They came into the cave. The crew set themselves up at the mouth of the cave. And now what they did is precisely this type of a challenge response protocol. So Alibaba always goes inside and hides in one of the two branches. The camera crew then enters the cave. They come to the crossroads, and then they will call out the challenge. Either come out from branch A or come out from branch B, from the left, from the right. And Alibaba always successfully leaves from the branch they have chosen. In half of the cases, he can just walk. In half of the cases, he utters the phrase "Open Sesame," passes through solid rock, and then exits from the other side. So just as in the example with the red and green ball, the protocol works in the sense that the DNN Evening News crew was fascinated. So they filmed 30 rounds in a row. Each time they gave the challenge, each time Alibaba exited from the chosen branch of the cave. So yes, it was fantastic. They had a story. They were completely convinced it's true. 30 times cannot be a coincidence. He is actually able to pass through solid rock. We have a story for the evening news. So they drove off and began processing the video footage. So far, what we have is that we are now convinced about having a good proof method. Alibaba actually convinced the camera crew. But what also happened is that there were also two other competing TV stations. There is Foxy News and there is the Baghdad Broadcasting Corporation, and both of them have learned about this scoop and they want to fake their own. So for the evening news, they also want to show off somebody else that, yes, he has the skill of being able to pass through solid rock. So what they did is they used two different methods, but both of them successfully constructed fake news reports. Foxy News, what they did, they just grabbed a random passerby. They recorded 60 rounds. In those 60 rounds, 29 times the passerby was not successful because they were in the other branch of the cave. 31 times they were successful. So what Foxy News did is they cut out the parts where where the passerby failed, and then they only broadcast the other ones. Baghdad Broadcasting Corporation also saved some more material, because what they did is they had a paid actor. They told them in advance what the sequence will be, and then of course they were able to film 30 successful attempts. So what happened that evening is that each of the 3 TVs had their own segment about the different person, saying that, hey, look at this footage, this person is able to come through walls. And after seeing all of those footage, everybody else just shrugged and said, okay, they're all faking it. And this is the big picture idea of how we can prove about some kind of a protocol that the protocol is zero knowledge. Exactly using this technique, if you are able to successfully fake footage that is indistinguishable from the actual one, so if you are just after the entire fact examining protocols, then you cannot tell apart a protocol that comes from the original proof and the protocol that comes from something that was generated in using probably one of these techniques. And if you are unable to tell those apart, then it means that for a third party, for somebody who's just watching it on the news, the footage doesn't actually contain any information about how to pass through solid rock or whatever it is we are trying to prove without revealing. So it's kind of a two-way street. On one side, you are able to convince, beyond any level of doubt, the person who is actually giving you the challenges. So the person who is giving the challenges will actually be convinced at the end that you do have the knowledge you claim to have. But anyone else who is not involved actively in the protocol, who is just observing it from afar, then they will learn exactly nothing about how are you doing what you're doing. So here it is once again on the slide. Alibaba was successfully able to convince the camera crew because they were the ones who were choosing the challenges, but the recording doesn't reveal this secret because others who don't have the knowledge can produce such recordings. And again, this was a story, but this is something that has actual practical applications, including some modern forms of cryptocurrency and the related stuff, and even more notably authentication, because in some sense authentication is the place where you want to do things like this. You know a secret, something along the lines of your password. You want to convince the other side that it's you, that you know the secret, but you want to do it without revealing anything. For standard password authentications, usually we use different protocols that kind of use other techniques to establish a secure communication channel, and then you can actually reveal the password. But in some other applications, this is exactly the way it's done. So we choose a problem that is kind of difficult to solve, and then you use a zero knowledge proof to show that you are the one in possession of this particular solution. So as one of the very last things in today's tech talk, here's one practical example of a zero knowledge proof. So suppose you know how to find a Hamiltonian cycle in one particular very large graph. Maybe you have a general algorithm, maybe you just know it because you generated the graph or for some other reason. And now you want to prove that you know the actual where the cycle is, but you want to do it without revealing anything about the location of the cycle. So what can you do? Let's first imagine it with pen and paper. What you do is you choose permutation of the vertices of the graph. So you assign new numbers from 0 to n-1 to the vertices of the graph. And then you take a bunch of pieces of paper, and onto each of the pieces of paper you will write one edge of your new graph. So you will look at all of the edges of the original graph. For each of those edges, you will have one piece of paper, and on each of those pieces of paper there will be, for example, 7, 43. So these are the two vertices connected by an edge in your new numbering. And now the person whom you are trying to convince, the challenger, can choose one of two possibilities. One possibility is that the challenge is, I want to see that you actually did what you are claiming to do, that you actually just relabeled the vertices of the graph. So if they issue this challenge, you will just reveal the permutation of vertices. So you will say vertex A is 17, vertex B is 34, and so on. And they can examine all of your papers, and they can verify that together they are just exactly the set of edges of the graph. The other challenge can be that they want to see the cycle. And if they want to see the cycle, then you will reveal exactly n of your papers, and these will be the papers that contain the edges that form the cycle. If you, as you know, the cycle in the original graph, you know it on those papers, and then you can reveal exactly those. And what the challenger sees is they can verify that this is really a cycle that visits each of the n vertices once, and that's it. As the numbers are random, then they have no information about the position of the cycle in the original graph. And that's the protocol. So to conclude my talk, here are 2 more challenges for you to think about after the talk is over. So question number 1 is that suppose that your local news have just hired you to fake the recording for these Hamiltonian problems. So you should do the same thing as the other news networks did for Alibaba. Pretend that you know how to solve the problem and generate a faithfully looking recording of the challenge and response protocol to show that this is actually a zero-knowledge protocol and that nobody else learned anything about the position of the cycle in the graph. So this is more like a challenge to make sure that you understood what I was talking about, and this shouldn't be hard. Something a bit more challenging, where you will need to spend a little bit of time thinking about how to modify what you have already heard about and seen during the talk, is suppose you have just solved a really difficult classic Sudoku. So again, a shout out to a good YouTube channel, Cracking the Cryptic. And so you have taken a Sudoku puzzle, you have solved it, so you now have the grid of 9 by 9 numbers, and you want to show off that, yes, I have solved this very difficult Sudoku, I can do a swordfish technique and whatever. And you want now to convince your friend that you have the solution, but again, in a zero-knowledge way, without revealing anything about the solution, just being able to convince them beyond any shadow of doubt that you can actually do this. So how do you do it? So try coming up with a pen and paper protocol where the friend is issuing challenges, you are doing responses, and together you will be able to convince the friend that, yes, you actually do know a solution to this Sudoku without actually revealing that this is what's going on. Okay, so that's it. I hope you enjoyed my slightly incoherent ramblings on different topics I find interesting in the area of cryptography. And if you have any questions, then now is a good time to type them into the YouTube chat, and I will try my best to answer them and talk about whatever interests you a little bit more. If we don't have any questions, it's also all right. I hope we'll enjoy the rest of the NWERC. Yeah, good luck to you in the competition. Many good ideas, with very few bugs, useful debugging. I will share one of our dirty secrets. When we are competing in the ICPC back in the day, one of the very closely guarded secrets was the technique when you are helping somebody else debug their code, think that they are idiots. So what this does is, it's when you're competing in ICPC, the other people on your team are smart. You are smart as well. Everybody in the competition is smart, and it's very easy to slip into just nodding your head and agreeing with everything the other person says. And if you start the entire session by saying to yourself, hey, my friend, he's dumb, I don't trust a word he says, then you are switching yourself into a mindset where you are actually actively trying to find the mistake that they made. And this was helping us in the ICPC contest. And it's also more fun because when you can find your friend's bug, then you can make fun of them also after the contest. So I'm glad at least the people who commented in chat enjoyed the talk. And yeah, thank you for your attention once again. That's it from me.